Hello everyone, we are going to learn the following with joy together, knowing what each expression represents and what effect it produces. We need to know what each expression represents, what effect it produces, what each expression is, and it's embarrassing to use the wrong expression. For example, what she did just now was a natural quick reaction to protect herself, was a rebound. We need to be accurate to know it. We must be also accurate to know it. I'm teaching you all to tell her fortune by reading her face. But this is very important. About this, the higher a person's level of this is, the sharper his vision gets. When you look at others, you will find their every act and move is expressing the real them, but usually they do not know it. You are a lie detector, even if he doesn't talk. Or if he wants to talk but can't talk out, you know it clearly. But he probably doesn't know it. As a matter of fact, I am just a little cleverer. It seems that I know everything. I have spiritual powers and wisdom. What we have learned now is enough for you to practice in your daily life. If her expression were ignored by me, or did not arouse my attention, or I did not enter her expression to observe, I would get it wrong. Knowing ourselves and the enemy so as to win every battle. When people neglect, they will not know the status of others, and they will make mistakes. Make sure you know what's going on with others, so you won't make mistakes. We must know ourselves and the enemy so as to emerge victorious in every battle. Often people do something without thinking. Why is this? Usually they are in a state of self-preservation, and meanwhile they have done it. But they do not think too much about it. This karma follows our karma and habit to be exploited. If we follow our karma and habit to exploit everything, it will not be called cultivation for us. Fake within contains and hides reality. When something happens to them, they first exploit everything, following their karma and habits. Either you are a master hand and you are forced to take out the hidden subconscious. You can immediately find out what things, what people, and what state they are. Therefore, you should know what to say and what not to say. And I will change the subject when I need to. Do not rush recklessly, only by yourself. And don't kill what other people do or are like. That will be an extreme mistake that you have made. We now need to be clear what our expression represents and what the effect is. When this state arises, you should hold it back, lest you do something wrong at that moment. For example, the others are already disgusted, but you are still rushing recklessly there. I vow that I and all sentient beings will eternally know what every expression represents and what effect it produces, and will know ourselves and our enemy, so as to win 100 battles in 100 battles. Thank you for your attention and great achievement, so much indeed. See you next time.
Teachings of the Mentor. How do we achieve empty samadhi? We know from the scriptures that when our mind is pure, we do not think about the past, we do not think about the present, we do not think about the future, and we do not fall into the drowsy state of sleep. When your mind is very clear and your spirit is clear, this is called spiritual light shining alone. When the light is shining alone, you are not thinking about anything. When you settle down, it is empty samadhi. Everyone can actually enter the state of samadhi, and everyone's self-nature is always in the state of samadhi, and will never leave it. But why do you always have this attitude and delusion all day long? This involves a root, which is our greed, hatred, delusion, arrogance, and suspicion, which forms a root. So what is the root? Because we are so interested in the illusionary world, we are always greedy for what we have seen, heard, thought, and seen in the past, and when it goes against our greed, we become angry and jealous. In this way, we are in this state all the time. Either we are greedy or hatred. Because you can always see and hear, either greedy or hatred. So how to change this state? We need to know that these are all illusionary worlds. Just like when we watch TV, the men, women, children, mountains, rivers, earth, and aircraft cannons that appear on the screen are all disillusioned. If you miss it, he cries and you cry, and he laughs and you laugh. There is no point at all. When everyone is watching TV, there are mountains and rivers, men and women, old and young, airplanes and cannons. Follow your will and your realm, and you will be greedy. If they go against your will, you will have hatred and jealousy. He cries and you cry, he laughs and you laugh. Does it make sense? In fact, it is meaningless, because it is just a screen after all. You cried and laughed at a screen there, greedy for a while, hatred for a while. Is it worth it? Won't be wronged? From the point of view of the screen, it is always in meditation, always in the light of the spirit, but all these scenes that emerge from our spiritual self-nature in meditation, we are so greedy and so hateful. It is meaningless. It is because we have rarely built up this awareness that it is difficult for us to achieve it now. If we say that we don't care about all this anymore, we know that it is all on the screen. We know that it is all on the screen when we watch TV. We don't have to follow it meaningfully, and we can naturally stop. You can train, just train with TV. You know all the time. It's just a screen. Remember, it's just a screen. When you're watching TV, you know it's just a screen. Everything on the screen is just a screen. It's just a screen. It's not real. It's an illusion. We cry and laugh at the illusion. It's meaningless. After training for a long time, when you are in this wisdom, you will naturally not be influenced by these illusion realms. That is a kind of kung fu. Practice is the same as this TV. This screen is to manifest everything, and so is our own nature, which is to manifest everything. As your goodness manifests goodness, so does your badness. It is a spiritual light that shines brightly, a spiritual light that shines uniquely, as it were. But at the same time as the spiritual light shines alone, everything we visualize is a mixture of good and evil. So that's what we feel. That's what you should feel in these videos. Do remember, we are in this realm of illusion, gaining, losing, and complaining. Actually, it's really wrong. These are all dreams and have nothing to do with ourselves.
The path back to the family of the dust from one author. Grace Series 10. After returning to campus, I continued my study and my repent by bowing to the Buddhas. I entreated the Buddhas to grant me a kind mentor, who can lead and inspire me to learn the true Buddha's teachings. After several months' efforts, one day, a friend sent me a message and asked me to do the translation on the sutras. I was happy to do that. I was joyful at that time since I could continue my learning and translation on sutras in my spare time. When I was doing the two preachings named Subdue the Afflictions and Effects on Conditions, I was keen on them. The issues in these two preachings were so practicable and could be used to deal with the issues I faced, while I could not find a way out by myself. I suddenly realized that those were the real teachings of Buddhism, which was the bright way for living beings led by Buddhas. Within these two copies of teachings, they explained the causes of suffering due to taking using of inappropriated conditions, which can induce detriments of the good. How to renounce the afflictions and how to make mutual benefits of others and ourselves. The more I did the translation, the more I was attracted. I had met so many unprecedented Dharma teachings of wisdom in how to get along with others. At the beginning of 2017, the friend asking me to do the translation would like to stay in my abode. In that case, I traveled back to Vietnam for the arrangement for her. During that period, she played a speech record in a low voice. I asked her, why not turn it a bit louder so that I could hear it too? Every evening, I saw her join Reverend Yu's lecture on sutras. I requested, what are you studying? She explained, I am listening to the preaching by Reverend Yu. I respond, shall I join you to learn, please? During these years, I wandered around to look for someone to speak the Buddha Dharma for me. But it never happened to me. She immediately sent a request to Reverend Yu on the admission of my joining in the study. At that time, they were studying on talks of the causes and reviewing the Shurangama Sutra. Reverend Yu illuminated them in a humorous way full of wisdom and eloquence in a mild voice. I was attracted onto the Buddha's path. Day after day, through study, I was gradually aware of my afflictions. From learning, I got to clearer and clearer about the wisdom on cause and effect and realized that all the happiness and sufferings were created by myself, not by others. Moreover, there was the true self, depending on which we could create and manifest everything. However, I forgot it and did not recognize it, instead, just pursued the worldly illusory phenomena all the time. After having set out everything in Vietnam, I returned to China for my study. I was extremely happy since I could study Buddha Dharma since then. To be continued.
the wise, our mantle of kindness, compassion, joy, and giving is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of eons. We now see and hear Him, and joyfully follow Him. We want to possess the skill that showing respect swiftly. We want to hear, contemplate, and practice the wonderful Dharma internally. We want to attain the Buddha-like true state. We want to get that, attain to mental, in order to reply him or his candidates, and we want to emulate his Buddha's practice. I have the same walls with Bodhisattva Universal Onesie. Well, I would also desire to have the same ones as other Bodhisattvas. Is there any confliction, please? There would be no confliction, since there are incarnations and retribution bodies working simultaneously for one Buddha or one Bodhisattva. Please be assured to make vows. If you would like to perfect swiftly, you should vow more. The more the better. When causes and conditions work together, the effects will come into being. Is there anything wrong to follow the Buddha and Bodhisattvas with an impure mind, please? There is no side effect if someone accords to the conditions for following in the Sutra of complete enlightenment to practice things in that way. Whatever the Buddhas or Bodhisattvas do are with merits in their minds. What's the difference between with the pure mind and with the impure one to follow them, please? Difference in effect. The biggest difference between these two is feeling when following. With impure mind, one will have a good affinity with Buddhas or Bodhisattvas, and the yearning for getting close to them is deeper. However, there is a detriment from afflictions, which could induce detriments to the fellowship. If the follower behaves with afflictions, the affinity would be destroyed. If the afflictions have been avoided, the attraction kept, then it is perfect. Hereby, we need to vow to avoid behaving with afflictions. Well, when following with pure mind, the effect is the same regardless the distance. One is that easy, but without much yearning. How to keep the follow with an impure mind, but without any detriments, please? Take the best and avoid the detriments. Being attached to the good can be called good desire. It is based on the Buddha's wisdom in order to have the same merit and capability, which is called joy without afflictions. However, when being attached to the bad, which is originated from ignorance, coinciding with the affliction, things are not as they should be. What's the key to preach the Dharma? It should be no loopholes in public Dharma speaking. Practice to perceive your own every speech and action. You will have a good command of them. How to perfect ourselves, please? A wise man does not glorify himself blindly. There is an opposite effect when someone wants to glorify himself. We should be humble and show the drawbacks. At the same time, we need to improve ourselves little by little. We had better coincide with the Dharmas, with Buddhas or with Bodhisattvas, putting our hearts into the Buddha Dharma forever to practice. Practice means perfect. Devadatta has not practiced well in being qualified to be a disciple, so that he had to fall into the hill. This is the very way that we call cultivation where observing ourselves at all times. When we want to say or do something, we have to be aware of what is at stake, which helps achieving your goal or goes against it. it is important to observe, because sometimes our expressions can create barriers. At this point, we can start with the senses consciousness and think before we speak and act. If we don't think thoroughly, we'll not speak. Finally, we will reach the goal that our laughter and anger are Dharma, so that all sentient beings can accept with joy. We are always unaware of our habits. It's not good enough to continue with your own habits. One with skills can cultivate it well, but on bad conditions, while the other without skills will transfer the blessing into bad fortune. How to practice to be graceful or elegant, please? You should have a good command of your speech, action, fire, and expression. In that way, you will achieve it. You can create opportunities and watch and observe what kind of behavior will have what kind of effect. You observe the effect of people's thoughts, words, and actions around you, or through watching TV. Have you ever created such an effect yourself? Whether it is a good or bad, we can't afford to spoil everything by ourselves anymore, including the relationships between father and son, husband and wife, or friendship and mentorship. There is something extremely destructive. Are we creating destructive or converting forces? This requires a pair of wise eyes. When we have mastered the Dharma, we will become the wise ones.
Part 5. Meetings of Management Committee. 40. Frequency and calling of meetings. 1. The committee must meet together for the conduct of business not less than 4 times in each financial year. 2. The chairperson, or at least half the committee members, may at any time convene a special meeting of the committee. 3. A special meeting may be convened to deal with an appeal under Clause 22. Thank you.